everybody, it's EK from EK Gorman Designs, and I am coming in with a massive video. I took this entire pack of Far Off Worlds paper from ScrapBerry's, plus 2 pieces of 12x12 ephemera. It's cut in half because it needed to be. But 2 pieces of 12x12 ephemera that are associated with the Far Off Worlds paper, and killed everything. I didn't kill it literally, I just used every bit of it. Additionally, I used all these different colors of cardstock and lots of tape, and all kinds of card frames. I trimmed my cardstock down to A2 card size, and then trimmed all the ephemera up so they were in nice little neat squares and rectangles, because everything is easier to decide what to use when it's trimmed into nice little neat squares and rectangles. I made 3 piles. One that was your zodiac sign, one that was cool sentiments, and one was just pictures. Then I made sure I had each piece of, these are double-sided papers, so I wanted to make sure I was going to use each of the 2 designs, and I trimmed all the 6x6 papers down to 4 inches by 5.25 inches, and so I'd have I'd have 12 backgrounds. So I have 12 full backgrounds, plus that one on the top that you saw that is from the packaging. And then I trimmed up all the packaging to use as much as I could, and separated all of my little cuts into banners and pieces, and I just made piles. Because like always, I did not come into this with a plan. I never come into anything with a plan. I have plan-esque ideas where I generally know where I'm going, and in this case, I genuinely knew I was going to use all the paper and ephemera pieces. Yep, that was the plan. That was as far as I'd gotten. So I figured if I had everything in piles and little organized neat areas, I'd be able to come up with a plan while I worked. And so for my first 4 cards, I took what I thought were pretty backgrounds, fun pieces of colored cardstock, and great sentiments, and layered them all up together. See? Pretty simple. I won't lie, I kept this really, really simple, because when you decide to use an entire 12-page pack of 6x6 paper plus 2 pages of ephemeras, simple is kind of where you have to go. However, on this case, I knew it needed a cool little banner, so I pulled out one of the trimmed up pieces of paper and added a little banner. Banner's probably the wrong word. Strip of paper. I added a strip of paper. And then I repeated the process with 3 other cards. So what I'm trying to do is really play off the colors here. I use the orange and the blue, which are secondary colors to each other. Not secondary colors, that's the wrong word. They're complementary colors to each other. If you mix those paints, you get brown. If you use them, they really complement each other. I kind of looked at the orangey red nebulous in the background and chose green. I picked something that popped off the beige really well. And in the purple world, I didn't have anything in yellow that looked good with it, so I just went with some pink because it pops. So not really a complementary color there, but it worked nonetheless. And I picked different colors of cardstock, not based off of, based off what would look the best. I didn't just want to use one color and just make it work. Yeah, this is where you see me make a fun mistake called I taped up the wrong side first. It happens. My lack of perfectionism shows very clearly in this project. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't do all this in one day. I didn't do all of this in 2 days. I didn't do all of this in a week. It has taken me months. It has taken me months to kill this pack, mainly because I have adult ADHD and 3 children. So I would start it, I'd get 4, 5, 6 cards done, and then my children would ask for a snack. I'd help them out in that manner, and then get distracted by something else. Adult ADHD is real. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Adult ADHD is real, and I've got it. If you've ever listened to one of my commentaries, you know. So, literally, this has been the project that has been looming over me for months, because I really wanted to do it. I just couldn't make enough time to actually get it done. So I've been doing it in steps and processes. I'd love to tell you how long it took. The answer is a long time. It took a long time, mainly because, again, adult ADHD is real. To finish these cards off, it needed a little something, so I pulled out some Nuvo drops in ebony black and just added a little splash of color on it. Now, I wish for this last one I had used a white dot because the black really blends into the background, but the rest of them, look how nicely they pop. These cards are fun because they've got really fun space themes, and they're perfect anytime cards. You need a birthday card, just stamp birthday inside. You need a thinking of you card, same thing. I love having a collection of anytime cards around. For cards, oh, now I'm going to have to keep track. 5 and 6, cards 5 and 6, I was really playing with the black cardstock, and so everything got matted in black cardstock, and I think it had a really nice, cool effect. I will tell you I lost a little video here. Not really certain where it went, but we know how to mat papers and we know how to adhere them to each other. I added some Nouveau drops in Sea Breeze, which is this really pale blue, which worked perfectly. Quick and simple cards, really like how it came out. And I'll tell you, the strip of colored paper is actually scrap paper left over from the ephemera sheets. For cards 7 and 8, I wanted to use the 2 really crazy backgrounds and get that off my desk. I was really worried, how do you use really bold, visually stimulating backgrounds and make it work? Well, you keep it simple. As my art instructors used to say, kiss it. Keep it simple, stupid. So I added some Distress Oxides around the card frame, and I distressed just the edges of the card in that same black soot, because now your eyes are getting pulled to the middle of that crazy, crazy card. And then I picked more kind of simpler ephemera sheets that weren't, because the background's so crazy, I didn't want my sentiment to be crazy. And once again, I'm just distressing the edges so your eyes get pulled into the middle. Maybe it worked. It might have worked. I think it worked. Possibly worked. I do think the cards in the end, because I used the more simple sentiments, were effective. Despite how crazy and wild those backgrounds are, I, again, added some Nouveau drops, this time in the Vintage Earl Grey. This is a matte Nouveau drop, and the bottles are my favorite. They squeeze better than any other bottle. There we go, 2 more of the cards, and this time I got the crazy scary paper done, so I no longer had to worry about it. For cards 9 and 10, I took more of the muted papers that were left in my piles. Oh, and I'd run out of Tombow. I'd run out of my ink, and when I sat down to do this, the only tape, not ink. I ran out of tape. The only tape I had was score tape. So there's several cards that I sat and made this day using score tape, and you're just going to have to deal with the fact I've got score tape. But I took 2 of the more muted papers and a couple of the more muted sentiments and tried to liven everything up with that really bold teal. And I think it worked. Now, I might be wrong, because I often am, but I like how these came out. I think the teal paper really livened up what could have been boring cards. The sentiments on them are great, and I wish you could see them better. I'm sorry, maybe it's my contacts I can't see. But again, I pulled out that Earl Grey Nouveau drop in matte and just finished the cards off with a couple little dewdrops that I thought looked nice. I am jumping off onto, again, you know how I was scared of those printed papers? Well, I was also scared of the printed leftover papers, because I had those crazy and wild printed leftover papers I still had to deal with, and I was like, that's it, I'm dealing with these too. But I wasn't exactly certain how to use that. It's what, a 2-inch strip of paper on a 4 1/4 inch card frame. So the decision was my decision. The decision as if it was a committee. All the voices in my head had decided that if I distressed half of the card with Distress Oxides, I would be able to lay the 2-inch strip of paper down and have a really nice card. Now, I decided to add a little bit of sparkle to that blue. It doesn't really distress out, or doesn't do that cool distress thing that happens here. Please ignore my finger. Again, this happens over a series of days, weeks, months, and I had a really nasty cut in my finger, which you may not want to look at, so I have a band-aid on my finger, but apparently I'm not capable of keeping my finger down. So yes, I sprayed the Nouveau, not Nouveau, no, not Nouveau. I sprayed the Shimmer Dust. It doesn't let the Distress Oxide do its weird distress thing, but I like it. So this time, where the first time I took the crazy wild backgrounds and I put really neutral sentiments on with it. This time I did not. One is not even a sentiment. One's just another picture of craziness. The card needed a little bit something more, and the Doodles Paper Playground has a really cool collection of sparkle blend sequins that are called Intergalactic that has stars and fun black sequinings. So that's what I used. I pulled out my Ranger glossy accents and glued down a few bits and baubles onto these cards because I think it added a nice little bit of flair, for lack of a better word. And I like the stars. I think the stars are nice. I also added a couple drops of just Ranger glossy accents just because I thought the card needed just a bit more. Now you're also watching me run out of glossy accents. I've now officially run out of tape, and my good bottle, it's my little bottle. I like the little bottle better than the big bottle. But I've officially run out of both tape and glossy accents. Very sad. For the next series of cards, I'm trying to play with some of the scraps because I'm getting down to just scraps. I think I have at this point one more set of full pages, but I didn't want to use them because they're easier to design. So I was like tackling some of the hard stuff. So I cut for this one strips of gray cardstock and just built layers. And I had a couple pieces of ephemera that didn't have any words on it, so I thought this would be a really fun way to use the leftovers. So here you see me stacking, and I'm just literally marrying up to each other the cardstock and the printed bases. And now I'm adding, again, the picture, and then the one with the sentiment. And trimming off my excess because sometimes I can't cut. To finish this card, I pulled out Dove Craft Glitter Glue in Crystal. It is glitter glue, for lack of a better word. And it just needed a little bit of poking so it would come out properly. But once it did, it makes perfect little drops. I now store everything upside down, so I store it with the cap facing the ground. And since I started doing that, I have less and less cloggage. This one clearly hadn't been cleared up since I'd done it, but since I started storing everything upside down. But now it's cleared out, and hopefully I won't have cloggage in that tip again. We're on to card 15 and 16, and this one you get to watch me try to figure out how to puzzle it together. Sometimes I'm special. I love the play of the teal and the gray. And so what I wanted to do was have that long strip on the side go over everything, but you can just watch. You can watch the thought process here. So the bottom strip of teal was going to go over all of the bottom, and the top piece of teal was, yeah, so you even see me leave a strip of score tape under it because I'm still trying to figure out what to do. So I taped the bottom teal all the way down, and then I realized that I was never going to get the effect. It wasn't ever going to happen the way I wanted it to. So the gray strip on the edge came down. I matted out the sentiment with more gray paper, and I just wrote off my losses. But I love how the card came out. This one, to me, is the most visually stimulating from afar. So, like, whenever I look over and see the giant pile of these cards, I manage to almost always pick out the teal and gray. This one I was able to assemble a little faster because I wasn't so worried about all the stuff I wasn't going to have to piece it together like a puzzle so much because I've already done it once. That's the one nice thing about doing this. When you kill a whole pack, do cards in multiple styles. Like, no, that's not the right phrase. Do one design for multiple cards using different papers and ephemera because it makes it so much easier. You're not having to think up a whole bunch of individual. I pulled out the Earl Grey vintage drops again because, you know, the gray cardstock. And there we go, cards. I want to say 15 and 16. I'm going to have to assume I'm right. I'm going to find out if I was right. Right about... Yes, I was! Here we go for 17 and 18. These, I think, are officially the last two pieces of original paper. And I matted everything in gray, the light gray cardstock this time. I don't know it took me so long to use this pretty blue paper, but I really, really like it. For the banner strip, I just added the gray cardstock to the bottom because I knew I was going to float the sentiment on the top half of that little strip of colored printed paper. And there we go. I'm getting this card assembled. This is another one of those really simple layouts that had big impact despite the fact it was super simple to make. And to finish these cards off, I pulled out some more Dual Paper Playground sequins, and this one's in grapefruit. The colors are bold and vibrant, and I thought they'd stand out really, really nicely against the colors I had here. And I think this is officially the end of my glossy accents. I forgot it came back out into the video, and you're literally watching me have to fight it and shake it and get the glue out. I like the little bottle. It flows really nicely. I'm going to have to order a new one. In case you're wondering, White Rose Crafts does carry glossy accents. Apparently, I was complaining just enough about having to use score tape on these videos that my husband grabbed a couple of my kids and went to a big box crafting store, which would be his own personal hell. But he went into a big craft box store and bought me a adhesive tape roller. So not what I would have probably picked out, but God bless the man, because look, I once again have tape. He also bought me refills too. So way to go, my husband. You rock. He is... Apparently I need to complain about what I don't have more, because apparently if I complain loud and long enough, he goes and gets it for me. Anyway, you'll notice here I forgot to trim down these 2-inch strips of paper. So the page is 2 inches by 6. When I initially cut it, it was a 2-inch strip by 6 inches. The card is 5.5 inches long. So I actually had to trim 1/2 inch off of it. And like a child, I got too excited about making my cards and forgot to do that 4 times. I do, however, absolutely love how my shimmer spray and frost came out on that black cardstock. Doesn't it look like its own galaxy? Like the black cardstock, I think, ended up kind of being the show of these cards just because of how cool they ended up looking. They look like a piece of printed paper and not just cardstock that I splattered with ink. Yay! I will tell you my new... See, look, I forgot to trim this one too. My new tape roller took a little bit of a learning curve. I finally figured out that you need to end with it pointing up, so there's a little bit of adhesive on the bottom. Anyway, there's a learning curve to it. It took me a little bit to figure it out. You're going to watch me struggle because this is literally the first time I'm using this new tape roller. If you have recommendations on ways to roll out tape or brands that you really, really, really like, please let me know. I like the adhesive on this one better than the one I used at the beginning of the video. But nothing's as good as score tape. If you think you've got something as good as score tape, let me know in the comments below, because I'd be really curious to find out. So there we go. Here's the 4 cards, and I love the color scheme and how they came out and how sparkly and spacey and all the different little looks that came out on these 4 cards. It's fascinating. It's really 4 different looks that cohesively went together. For my next 2 cards, I pulled out 2 more strips that I did remember to trim down. And these Far Off Worlds are actually the label that was on the 2 pieces of ephemera. So I saved them because it's a fun sentiment, right? And these cards needed a little something special, so I actually just splattered my card frame with some Distress Oxide spray because I wanted to continue that look of stars. And then I threw in, for good measure, a little bit more the Shimmer Craft Spray and Frost. You can't see it necessarily until you move the card, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, it's got sparkle and shine. And then I started assembling this card. And if you look, as I put tape onto the Far Off World sentiment, you can actually see the ScrapBerry logo on the back from where it's its advertisement. So if you're not aware, these papers came from ScrapBerry, and you too can pick up these papers over at White Rose Crafts, which is where I got mine from. If you've got a kid who likes space and you need a collection of cards because you do lunchbox cards or something like that, this is your paper pack. I have a kid who likes space, but I put too much pink on it. He doesn't like when I send, he's in middle school. He likes my lunchbox cards, but he does not like when I send pink ones. Those are the rules. So this first strip here is from advertisement. Like, it's part of the packaging. And that one was really easy to put down. The second collection is all the little pieces I cut off the 2" by 6" pieces. So they're all the little 1/2" cuts that I had from trimming everything up. And again, I'm trying to use everything. So I adhered everything up in a nice straight line, mimicking almost identically how the other one was, because I may not have a plan often, but I'm still details matter. And when you make matching cards, you want to make them match, right? So I actually mimicked, I could have done any order and I didn't, because I am a dork. That's the word I'm looking for here. I'm a dork. I do not have attention to detail. I'm a dork. And it's fine, because there are many people out there like me, and you're probably one of them if you're sitting here watching this. I had that lovely little strip of white at the bottom and was trying to come up with nothing worked. Nothing worked, so you know what? I left the little strip of white at the bottom. And if whoever receives this card doesn't like it, well, they received a homemade card and they should learn to deal with it. Yeah, see, there's my attention to detail going south. But I like the sentiment, and I think in the end you really didn't notice that there was a stripe of white. Maybe you wouldn't have noticed it if I had never mentioned it. I finished this card off because of the fun purple cardstock with some crushed grapes, Nouveau drops, and called it done. Now we have 2 cards left, and it is literally the bottom of my scrap barrels. These are all the pieces I have left, except for the following 12 cards that will debut in a second video series. There's some sentiments, and there's the 12 zodiac signs. I had the 12 squares of zodiac signs left over when I finished these next 2 cards. And I knew I was going to have to do something special, because that's all I had. I had like a handful of sentiment strips, not even full pieces, strips, and the 12 zodiac signs. So I decided to get crafty with it and really mix media and play with some mediums. So it's a whole second video. So today is the first 28 cards. On another day, it will be 12 more, and I will have killed the entire pack of the Far Off Worlds ScrapBerry pack. This is probably the least favorite of all my cards today, but it was literally the bottom of the barrel of supplies left, and I was determined to whatever was left to use on this one card, because there comes a point where you just want to be done. You do, you just want to be done, and I used the wrong square, and I was annoyed, but there we go. Now I've got the right square on, and I'm kind of masking the fact that my strips didn't go far enough. So I dropped the 2 strips of fabric, and then another strip of fabric, and my last sentiment fabric. Wow, these aren't fabrics. These are pieces of paper. Using little 3-dimensional tape, I dropped the last sentiment piece of ephemera onto the card. Again, really didn't like this card, so I thought if I pulled out some Sparkle Blend sequins and drop them on, I might appreciate the card better. And yes, sequins really helped in the long run of me liking this card. Still the weakest one in the group. Ah, there's my bad bottle. See, this is my oldest bottle of Glossy Accents, not my favorite bottle. The 2 little ones I've had were my favorite, and now I'm going to order myself a brand new little bottle of Glossy Accents because I don't like the big bottle. It's my opinion on something. And here we go. Here today is the last card I've made, making it card number 28. It is the advertisement on the back of the packaging, showing each of the 12 prints, plus some of the packaging from the front of it. Yeah, that's it. That's all I did. It was the last card of the group. Let me know in the comments below which of these 28 cards was your favorite. And stay tuned for the second part of this series. Until then, happy crafting.